Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett joins us now. Major, good morning.
Good morning.
We heard Nancy say that we will likely have nationally televised impeachment hearings ahead of us. With this impeachment resolution, what actually changes?
Now the country knows when it's going to see some of the depositions taken as transcripts that they can read and evaluate themselves. Republicans keep saying they're not going to be the indictment Democrats have been describing for weeks now. The public will get to make its own determination. And as Nancy said, there'll be hearings. But we should pause for a second to just reflect on the gravity of the House vote yesterday. Everything that looks divided bitterly in a partisan way appears small. The Constitution is not. It doesn't get shrunk by a hard part.
A historic moment in the U.S. Congress.
The yeas are 232. The nays are 196.
That also showed the deep party divides over President Trump. Republicans all voted against the measure. All but 2 House Democrats voted for it. The move formalizes weeks of closed-door investigations into allegations Trump pressed Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden and his son, and ordered hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to that country frozen as a way to pressure that country's leader. The move to make Trump the 4th president to face an impeachment inquiry was not taken lightly, said Speaker Pelosi.
So what is at stake is our democracy. What are we fighting for? Defending our democracy for the people.
Trump tweeted immediately after the vote, calling the investigation a witch hunt. Presidential impeachments are inseparable from politics, but Democrats maintain the investigation is part of their duty as lawmakers.
For all the disagreements I have,
Congress has formally approved the first ever impeachment investigation of a president running for re-election. House lawmakers voted yesterday, pretty much along party lines, to proceed to a new phase. The most serious allegation says President Trump withheld military aid to pressure Ukraine's president to investigate Democrats. The White House calls the entire process a blatantly partisan attempt to destroy the president. Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill with more on this story. So, Nancy, what does the next step look like?
Well, this vote, Gail, paves the way for the first nationally televised impeachment hearings in 21 years. They could get underway in mid-November, but the schedule is still fluid. Now, Republicans had demanded this vote, but they all voted no, saying that they and the president don't get enough rights.
Are we done? Is the president impeached?
No. No, but thank you for asking.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stopped by The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on the heels of an historic House vote.
What happened today was it was a continuation of our inquiry that we have, but to set forth the rules of procedure for how we go forward now.
When do public hearings start?
They'll be soon.
Could you be vaguer?
For now, closed-door depositions continue, with the president's top Russia advisor, Tim Morrison, telling lawmakers yesterday that he went straight to White House lawyers after President Trump asked his Ukrainian counterpart to investigate Joe Biden. Morrison said he was not concerned that anything illegal was discussed, but he did worry that such an investigation might affect the bipartisan support our Ukrainian partners currently experience in Congress. In an interview with the Washington Examiner, Mr. Trump called the testimony fantastic. Republicans agreed.
I look forward to the American people getting to see what he had to say.
House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff told CBS News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell that only classified and personal information will be redacted from the deposition transcripts.
But I think as soon as early next week, we'll be able to start releasing transcripts.
Republicans will have the right to propose their own witnesses for public hearings, though Democrats can override them.
they don't really want to get to the truth. They want to remove a sitting president.
Mr. Trump's lawyers will get the chance to cross-examine witnesses, but that right could get revoked.
One party to a litigation unlawfully blocks the investigation, as this president has been doing, although we hope he won't continue doing it. You may have to take some steps. We may have to draw adverse inferences. We may have to do other things. We'll see.
What kind of punishments are you considering?
I'm not considering anything at the moment. We'll see what happens.
Republicans say those kinds of ambiguities only add to the unfairness, but Democrats argue that the rules are actually quite similar to those that governed the public impeachment proceedings for Presidents Nixon and Clinton. President Trump has come up with a novel idea for his own defense. He told the Washington Examiner that he might read the call summary of his conversation with the Ukrainian president aloud. He described it, Anthony, as a sort of fireside chat for television.
Okay, Nancy, thank you very much.
A historic vote on Capitol Hill, a bitterly divided House of Representatives voting to formally move the impeachment inquiry forward. This new phase sets the stage for another round of hearings, this time open to the public.
When we move into open session, both parties will have an equal opportunity to question any witnesses that are called.
Republicans are still calling the process unfair, accusing Democrats of trying to overturn the 2016 election and promising to defend the president.
Will you all go on the record and say that the president did nothing inappropriate?
Very clear, yes.
But on Stephen Colbert Thursday night, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insisting it isn't personal, saying she's defending democracy.
The most important thing for the American people to realize and understand is no one is above the law.
This comes as another White House official, Tim Morrison, testified that military aid to Ukraine was held up until their leaders committed to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter. But Morrison also said he saw nothing illegal about the quid pro quo at the center of the impeachment inquiry. And President Trump continuing to defend himself, telling former British politician Nigel Farage on his radio show he did nothing wrong.
It's a hoax. And, high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, what's a high crime and misdemeanor when you have a very appropriate conversation?
Democrats want to start hearings as early as mid-November. Witnesses who have already testified behind closed doors could do it again, this time in public, which means all of this could be playing out on television very soon. Kenneth.
So many people will be watching. Megan, thank you. Democrats are expected to conduct this new phase of the impeachment inquiry at the same rapid pace they've been working since launching the investigation.
Those nationally televised hearings are expected to get underway as early as mid.
All right, President Trump insists things are better along the U.S. border with Mexico, but in reality, the humanitarian crisis is getting significantly worse. A short walk from the border into Mexico and scores of asylum-seeking migrants living in quickly deteriorating conditions while they wait for their U.S. immigration cases. CNN's Nick Valencia got a first-hand look at conditions in one makeshift tent camp.
In this migrant camp in Matamoros, Mexico, the suffering is everywhere. Angela, the mother of this sick 2-year-old, says that 2 months ago, they crossed into the United States seeking asylum. After 3 days in U.S. custody, they were put on a bus and driven into Mexico. It's part of the Trump administration's migrant protection protocols, a policy which now requires migrants like her to remain in Mexico for their asylum cases to be called on if they cross illegally or